Hey, everybody, it's Conscious Medium Brandon Ross. I want to thank you so much for tuning into this one. You probably clicked on the tagline about Putin's natal chart and why it's kind of a little dicey for him. I'm doing this recording on February 25th, and just to give a little bit of context, the invasion of Ukraine has begun. He has been called out by NATO, and of course, some of this has to do with the geopolitical outlet of Ukraine not actually being able to be part of NATO because he was a big crybaby. Yes, Vladimir, you're a big crybaby. It's in your chart. I'll show you in a second. Second of all, we're in a position where not only are these bombings going on, but then also the takeover of Chernobyl. There's some really risky stuff going on in Ukraine right now. But I want to actually shed some light on the astrology of what is going on right here with Vladimir Putin. First of all, those of you that don't believe in astrology, you're probably going to roll your eyes and say whatever. But if you're a bit of an astrology junkie like most of us are, especially if you're tuning into a channel with a medium, you're going to really kind of enjoy this analysis, because what we're going to take a look at is understand how Vladimir Putin came to power. His chart is actually ripe with leadership. However, he's also over his skis right now. I'm going to show you how it is that his astrology right now is actually going to be his undoing. There's a lot going on into this. And by the way, before we go any further, I do not have political skin in the game. I just want peace on earth. I really do. I don't want any war, yet I support every single troop that puts on a uniform. I think that borders are kind of nonsensical beings, but I think we deserve our sovereignty, not only as humans, but also in what our beliefs are. So if you believe that you're part of a country, then so be it. Let it rip, brother. But I don't think we need our countries to tell us who or what we are. But we have every right to become who we are meant to be in whatever circumstance and our root brings us to. So just to kind of take that off the table, the only skin in the game that I really truly have in any of this is I just really do want peace on earth. And that's where we're going, whether you like it or not. This is a great experiment and a great look at someone who is so incredibly misguided with tools and gifts that he's actually overstepped his bounds, and probably for the last time. Let's dive right into it. By the way, if you've made it this far and you like what you see, go ahead and click and subscribe. This series is actually going to be called something along the lines of Astrology of Famous People, or Famous People Astrology. I actually do this all the time with a lot of my students in my classes and that sort of thing. Go ahead and click below and like this. And if you like what I'm talking about here and you want to understand how you can do it for yourself, know that I have an astrology class coming up where you take a look at not only all the signs, but also the aspects, the planets, the houses, and how predictive astrology really works. We do in-depth dives into things like how astrology kind of plays into our day-to-day life, how the moon affects us, and all of the dynamics that come along with it. If you don't believe in it, you've already clicked off of this. But if you do believe in it and you want to learn it and understand it a little bit more and in depth, I really hope I can take you along in this journey. So Vladimir Putin, I traditionally use a website that is built around that is Astro Cafe Astrology. They're actually a great free resource. They do not pay me for anything. I just always advise my students to jump into this. They're traditionally banner free, and they give a very consistent, accurate description of natal charts in particular, and then they have some very cool neat tools. They also have some other things that you can purchase, like things like, love charts that are analysis, relationship charts that are there, also transits throughout the year. There's some cool, inexpensive things that you can purchase from them as well, but by and large, this is a free site. I have no problem promoting them whatsoever. Again, it's Astro Cafe. So let's dive right into this and take a look at Vladimir Putin. First of all, this dude has got a lot of hair. Something about air signs. This is about thinking. This is about your brain. This is about how you, really kind of have to be cerebral. These people have a tendency of thinking before they speak. They have a tendency of thinking that relationships are about like who can bring the mental sparring, if you will. One of the other dynamics about this chart is that he has some really he's really a little lopsided in some things. So first and foremost out of it, you always look at the triad. He is a Sun Libra. He is a moon Gemini, so he's kind of a double air in that regard. And then he is a Scorpio rising. I am going to tell you, this is the only water he has in his chart. This is one of those things. He only has 2 water symbols in this, but this is the most prominent and prevalent in it. And he's pretty limited otherwise. Some of the other things, and by the way, this is how he became a leader. So the dynamic, just in analysis about the, sun in Libra, he's going to be about balance. He's going to be charismatic. He's going to have a really good way about this. Now, coupled with his Mercury in Libra, he is an eloquent speaker. He is someone that truly, is able to like just draw you in with his speech. And if that wasn't enough, his Venus is in Scorpio, right? Are you seeing this kind of like double dip here? By the way, Venus and Scorpio, incredibly charming. I don't even know why you wore your pants today. That's how charming he is. My pants came off. I'm hanging out with a Venus and Scorpio. You see what I'm saying? His angle here, and I'm going to kind of just placate the angle here a little bit. For those of you that are astrology junkies that really go into the numerology of things as well, Vladimir Putin's at light path 5. So this dude is ramped to change everything he touches. And by the way, because he has this long sense of traditionalism, this is where like his culture and his root kind of come in, where he's born into this Russian oligarchy kind of feel, and he wants to go back to the way that it was. It's very conservative. It's very, as much as his political career, if you followed it at all, he was always very much about just making sure that they could kind of go back to old school Russia. Like that was really USSR, so hang on to that for just a second. And his Jupiter is in Taurus. Again, here's another Earth sign. I'm going to talk about the Mars thing here in a second. I know I'm skipping over that. But with the Mars and Taurus, traditionally, what that means is that actually break screen here for a second because I've got a couple of notes on the other page. What that traditionally means is that he's very kind of like, he's all about expansion. He's all about making sure that he can, that he's cautious about things and he's calculated and he keeps going. Well, Jupiter was in retrograde in Taurus. So he might have skipped a few things. He might have that in his chart a little bit. Now, Mars in Sagittarius, well, this is a very fiery, energetic, go get 'em, leading motivator. He is all about making sure that everybody, he's Jerry Maguire holding up the goldfish saying, who's coming with me? That's who he is. And I'm not fucking recording this. Oh, yes, I am. Keep going, Brandon. I thought I wasn't recording. Right. So anyways, he's holding up his goldfish saying, who's coming with me? And he is 100% the type of person. He's got the orator ability. He has the charismatic, that electric thing. He walks into a room and the ladies go, hello, Vlad. And then the gentlemen go, I want to be that guy. That is Vladimir Putin in his chart. He has the charismatic feel. He's got the drive. And he's all about making sure that he is going to be in charge. That is how he's built. Let's take a look at his Saturn here. His Saturn is really kind of interesting too, because here it comes again with another Libra. Look at all this Libra. By the way, Libra traditionally means balance. So if I saw this in a vacuum, I'd be like, this person could be a really good leader. This person would be really, really, he would be the type of person that I would say, I would hire him to be the CEO. But there are 2 things I'm going to make sure of this. First of all, he's got Scorpio in his first house. He's got Scorpio rising. I would make sure he is audited on a regular basis. Second of all, the other thing that I would tell you is that then he kind of gets into this money into the generational planets here with Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Pluto is a planet. The dynamic, just to focus in on Pluto in Leo, I'm telling you, he has to be right. I'm also going to point something out here that when we go ahead and take a look at his sun sign, he's in the 11th house with this, which means that he's all about being liked. He's all about being famous. Like I said, he is the classic quintessential leader, like charismatic, come follow me, cult of personality. He is the living color song, just to let you know. But his Libra in his 12th house being his undoing, oy vey. This is meaning that when he is unbalanced and he is challenged, he is screwed. I'm about to point out the reasons why this Ukraine move was terrible for Vladimir Putin. So just a couple of other things into the natal chart that I want to point out is that he's got a lot of action in the 10th house here. That is kind of his predominant house. He also has Mercury in his 12th house. He also has Neptune in his 12th house, as well as Saturn. The 12th house is the house of the undoing. In other words, if he's ever going to be this charismatic person and shit's going to go south for him, it's going to be because his words are no longer effective, his structure has come undone, and the people are done with him. Guess what's happening right now? By the way, this is also the ratios of his air, of his elemental signs. He is heavy into air. He has almost no earth. That is incredibly noteworthy. Incredibly noteworthy. Now he's got that little bit of Taurus going on. Of all of the earth signs, Taurus is kind of like he's bullheaded, right? It is the least, it's fixed in its thought process. It does not really care. And it is hellbound on making sure that they are right. So he's got a lot of challenges into this. By the way, also Dark Moon of Lilith, also in your 10th house. This is going to be a very public undoing, by the way, guys. This is a very public, very in-your-face scandal. I'm going to tell you where I think it's going to go. So just to kind of, bring us back into that, I'm going to break screen again and bring up the other, his actual layout of his chart. He's got some positive aspects on his birth, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about this. In his natal chart, he's conjunct with Mercury, with the Sun, along with Saturn. And coincidentally, Mercury and Saturn are in conjunction. Mercury is also in conjunction with Neptune, right? It kind of makes sense. They're all kind of in the same house. We're going to see how that kind of plays out with where things are going in today's, mode of action. But he was opposition with, his Venus was opposition to Jupiter, which traditionally means that there's somebody that does not necessarily get along with the masses. So he's kind of got this megalomaniac thing going on, and it's pretty consistent. And with the Saturn in Libra, he has these naturally, if he plays well with people, things are great. Like, he can be a very, I want to say this, Vladimir Putin has a potential in his chart to be a very good, judicious leader. But it's the house placements that really screw with him in a big way. And his timing is terrible. The Scorpio, his Venus in Scorpio, not only is he going to be charismatic and all that other stuff, he's also going to do shit that just gets under your skin. Excuse my French. He has no problem getting under your skin. He has no problem saying it like it is. He has no problem taking his ball and going home. And I think that is one of the things that come out of who he is to begin with. The Pluto in conjunction with Lilith as his birth is a really dangerous thing for him, because Lilith is in Leo. That's about pride. That's also about having it be, Lilith represents kind of the dark night of the soul, the work that you have to do in order to evolve in this life, right? He has to overcome his pride. Just to let you know, in karmatic astrology, looking at the Lilith, and you look at the nodes, you look at the Chiron, and I think he's Aries in Chiron. I have to double check that. Don't quote me on that yet. But he has this dialogue about how he feels like he has to do everything for everybody, and he's the best person in the room. He's one of those people that, like, have you ever interviewed somebody and then they go, oh yeah, I'm the smartest person in the room. Well, he's 100% just going to talk out his ass like that. Here's the part of it that is interesting. Are you ready? His Leo is also in his south node. His south node is Leo, which is his past life. So he came into this life very confident, very cocky, very, hey, I've got the world by the horns. And the belief system is, is that in his past life, it was a challenge. So he was given that into this life to overcome. He is failing on a spiritual path, just to let you know. And by the way, I'm not just talking about, how many people he's hurting, with an invasion. And when we talk about the geopolitical part of this, it's also going to be, how do I want to say this? He's got so many positive things in his chart, but the things that he goes undo with himself, he ruins himself continuously. This Jupiter-Lilith square thing, he will ruin himself to prove his point. That's what we're seeing right now. He's trying to prove his worth, right? He also, he's somebody that kind of has to be like, as much as he's an orator and somebody that pulls it together and leads people, he likes to kind of be by himself because he doesn't want people to know his routine. He doesn't want people to know, what this is, right? When he gets impulsive, Uranus is in Cancer to him, so that's impulsive as hell. It's one of the few times that Cancer ever represents impulsivity is when Uranus is connected to it, because it's this rebellion that this, Uranus is kind of this part that works against you. You want to be able to, you think you're doing things for humanity, right? And it's actually a challenge because he never shuts off, right? And he's almost impulsive and that sort of thing. He has a real challenge. Again, he's got some strengths here, right? But again, this Neptune in the 12th house has a lot to do with his own understanding of who he is. He has a potential to heal. He really does. But here's the problem. He's sextile with Neptune into Pluto, which means that he can kind of see the multiple layers of like what people need. Now, for a politician that was maybe in the positive, he would say, we need to get jobs to the people in the city so that then we can have the agriculture come in, sell it to the people in the city, and then have more turnover so that then the economy starts to grow. I'm just using very kind of an open basis thing here. What he would then look at this is say, I'm going to tax the guy coming in so that then I can tax the guy that buys it so that then more people can come in and we can have more of a tax base and we can control these people. He's using it not for good. That's the problem here. The problem isn't that he's not talented as hell, but I'm telling you, the conjunction with Pluto and Lilith actually talks about a bipolar relationship with yourself. It actually means that he's somebody that may have, two lives going on. Like he's this charismatic leader, and then behind the scenes, he has a couple of lovers, a couple of gay lovers. He's going to be very masculine in the public, and then he's going to be something else behind the scene. I'm not calling Vladimir Putin gay. I'm not. But it's that type of scenario where he may be this charismatic, confident leader, and behind the scenes, he's an absolute mess. I'll tell you that with the rest of the chart, he's pretty well organized. He's actually pretty dangerous. He's a dangerous person. He's a dangerous soul, right? And when he's not busy calling attention to himself, again, this whole Leo and Lilith, and certainly his Venus has a lot to say about this. He has extreme behaviors. He is all about getting that attention. And if you follow the politics, and I can't not talk about the politics here, he is 100% had it out and had an axe to grind with Ukraine for the better part of 18, 20 years. So this is not a surprise. And he telegraphs things. He's going to tell you he's going to do it, and he's arrogant enough to do it, right? He's not doing it just to keep himself quiet, right? So when he is quiet, this is where the Scorpio rising comes in. He's secretive in his actions to a certain point, and then he announces it, and he just shoves it in your face, right? They really, and he's an analyst. He's going to overanalyze it. He's going to look at right now, what Vladimir Putin is doing. And again, this is day 3, 2.5 of the invasion. He's sitting back and looking at who is supporting Ukraine. He's keeping a score, right? But we're about to point out some of the things that he's actually going to completely fall apart on. Now, I just want to show kind of his angular diamonds, as they're called. That is the type of chart that he has. It's the way that it looks. And by the way, you may sometimes see them point up. You may see them point to the side. Part of the reason for that is just how it's really kind of laid out. They're all, the spectrum of it is pretty much the same. By the way, we talk about this in the astrology, all you need to know in the complete astrology guide class coming up. So go ahead and click below, take a look at the link and see what else it is that you'd really like to learn. So some of the stuff that we had talked about, two things I want to point out. I want to point out to the rising sign being connected here to Mercury. If you look in the off left of this, you see the arrow right here. This is where the rising is, sitting right here in Scorpio. And then he is incredibly Libra here with his sun, with Mercury, with Neptune, with Mercury. And then you have this Pluto sitting here in Pluto and Lilith sitting here in Leo. This is, you look at this triangular guide here and you get 3 triangles, right? Forget about the ones that are down for just a minute, but you have these 3 external points of emphasis, right? You've got where Jupiter is going, you've got your work here in Cancer, you've got your work here in Leo, and you've got a ton over here. Now, you look at the houses. He's so heavy in the 12th house here. So heavy in the 12th house. The 12th house is a house of the undoing, everybody. This guy's a ticking time bomb. He's a ticking time bomb. He is, without a doubt, running out of time. He's 100% running out of time. By the way, the triads, just for fun, I was doing a little bit of this search and I'm like, I'm just going to go ahead and take a look at this. Interestingly enough, and I'm going to do another video about this, and go ahead and click through. I'm sure I'm going to make it at some point. I looked up 2 other world leaders that just decided that they should just invade everywhere. And I took a look at Hitler's chart. And Hitler's chart has a very interesting triangle to it. He was born on April 20th, 1889. 420, dude. Which is interesting, right? Incredibly interesting. And he was an Aries because the time that he was a Taurus because the time that he was born was later in the day. And then for giggles, I pulled up Napoleon. Napoleon was also born on 420. I have to do a video about this. But he's an Aries because he was born at like just after midnight on 420. And their charts have so many similarities, but one is an Aries and one is a Taurus. It's really interesting. So I kind of looked at that as in like, what are some of the traits that I saw? And all of them had one particular thing. And again, not really prepared to go too far into it right now, but I noticed the Saturn was sitting either in the 10th house. Their 10th house became a very important house to them, and their 12th house had a lot to do with their undoing. So Vladimir Putin, welcome to the club. You're an asshole, and you're also a great leader, but you're doing it the wrong way. So just like some of your predecessors, and by the way, Stalin had something similar to that. I'm sure he's going to love that comparison. I should probably pull that comparison up. But let's just kind of fast forward here into 2022. And we are a couple of days into the Ukraine invasion. And I still haven't gotten my hair cut. No comments, please. And by the way, if you have questions about some of what I said, go ahead and put it in the comments below. Tell me what you think so far. And one of the things that I want to kind of point out with this and the geopolitical thing is a little bit of the history lesson. Vladimir Putin had been elected. He has since been accused of controlling the election, staying in power, all of this stuff. He's grandiose. He's shaking hands, with everyone. He's had collusion stuff with every president, by the way, just not Trump. I'm going to go ahead and go back to every single administration. He actually plays the game with the United States government on a regular basis. Nobody is innocent. Quit thinking it's conspiracy. Everybody's doing it. And once you start to accept that, then you can see the trend that Vladimir Putin just wants to be part of the club. And he has all of the orating experience to be a great leader. He has the organizational prowess. He has the drive. He has the brains. He's a very intelligent person from a tactician standpoint. But what he should have done is believed in astrology, because what I'm about to show you next is actually going to be the demise of who he is. Now, whether this takes a day, a month, a year, or 6 days, hang on to that. Vladimir Putin has in his destiny that if his lessons are not learned, he's going to have everything come undone. It's in his chart. I'm about to point it out to you. His invasion of Ukraine, and by the way, his invasion of Ukraine, make no mistake, this actually isn't an act of Russia. He's using Russia as a pawn. As of February 25th at about 11 o'clock when I'm doing this video, I'm here to tell you that there is an active coup in St. Petersburg. There is an active uprising going on in Moscow. There are people being arrested in Russia protesting the actions of Vladimir Putin, declaring that they do not want war with Ukraine. They are getting outnumbered. They are starting to actually run out of resources domestically. And by the way, when you run out of resources domestically, you can't fight a war anywhere else. Keep that in mind as we keep talking about his chart today. The third thing is everybody is meant to learn a lesson in life. And this is an incredibly important point. Some people are destined to learn something, get their hand bit, sit down and say, oh, I made a mistake. I have to learn from that. Some people work with it and become a better person because of it. This could be in everything from your day-to-day life, from how you treat people at work, to how you treat your family, to your connection with your kids or your spouse, whatever. There's lessons in everyday life. Some people are destined to be grandiose with their lesson. Some people are meant to be on the front page of the news and be like, did you see what that guy did? Listen, if Tanya Harding learned her lesson on the junior circuit, it would have been a byline conversation. And it would have been one of those things where it was like, haha, there you go. Tanya Harding was destined to be front page for her lesson of jealousy, of rage, of control, right? And then Nancy Kerrigan, the knee, all of that stuff, right? But her destiny was that, right? Vladimir Putin's destiny has a lot to do with he's hell-bent on getting this lesson in public, fighting for what he believes. Well, let's go to the chart, everybody. Let me just pull this up and make sure that I've got it right. Interesting thing about, I think it's funny that there is also the timing of things where he waited till after the Olympics, which is kind of interesting because Russia is technically not representative in the Olympics. And again, we're going to go back to our chart here at Cafe Astrology. Thanks again, guys, for letting me use this. I appreciate you. I hope you get lots of hits on this. You're a great resource, and I really appreciate it. So again, up at the top, we see that Vladimir Putin was born on October 7th. 1952 at about 9:30 in the morning. Again, all these are a little bit estimates. I mean, after all, it is information out of Russia. It may be slightly off. Now, in looking at where we are at, and again, this is on February 25th, a little after 11 o'clock, but right now we're right before midnight. So let's just even take a look at where it is at 2:26. You have Mercury trine with the sun. This is actually his way of looking at things and saying, I can talk my way out of anything, right? So he may be talking a good game, right? And by the way, right now the sun is in Pisces. We're going to talk about that here in a second. Venus square with Mercury. So he's trying to, and again, the comparison here is on the left side. This is where it is today. And this is where his natal chart was. So when you talk about these squares, Venus and Mars are actually in conjunction right now, and they are square to his Mercury. That is not good news for him. What that means is he is not going to be able to talk his way out of anything. But the Mercury trine to the sun, that's him thinking he can go ahead and talk his way out of anything. Are you in trouble, Vlad? Now, the other influences here with Jupiter trine to Venus, that's kind of interesting insofar that he thinks, again, he's going to get this feeling of like, I can take over the world, right? Like I can, my love, it's about time to do this for Mother Russia. It's about time to go ahead and tackle the bad guys. Now is our time to strike. The Saturn trine with Saturn, again, he has some serious opposition issues because Saturn is in opposition to his Lilith. Guess what that means? Saturn, the planet of structure. Saturn, the planet of being able to say, I'm in charge, these are the rules, everything else, is in opposition with Lilith, with his pride. Don't forget, his Lilith is in Leo. He's got a shitload of pride here. He's got a lot of, non-congruitive thought process of grandiose, delusions of grandeur, really, that he is, he's kind of like the geopolitical Karen, where he's like, I'm going to talk to the manager. You know what? I'm going to own Ukraine. I'm going to go in there and take Ukraine. Don't you know who I am? That's kind of what that means, right? His conjunction with the North Node, remember how I said everybody's in it for a lesson? Here it comes, everybody. The structure in conjunction with the North Node is lining up for him to get his lesson about his foundation and who he is. Next, Uranus is in opposition with Venus. Oh, by the way, back on Saturn there, also opposition of his 10th house. So the 10th house is about your public persona. It's about your projection of who you are. This is the absolute, if he sat with an astrologer for 10 minutes, they would have said to him, don't you dare try and invade a country right now. You are out of your effing mind if you do, right? You just are. Because one of the other challenges, and we're going to get into the astrology of today, which, by the way, this is how the planets line up. We have a boatload of Earth symbolism going on. We are in Earth process right now. We've got a boatload of Capricorn stuff going on. That is his kryptonite. He is literally trying to invade a country when he is at his weakest. Astrologically, of course, if you believe in that sort of thing. Right, Vlad? Anyways. Uranus in opposition to Venus. This is about, things kind of coming out that like his loves are kind of overplayed. He's overplaying his hand everywhere. Lilith is trying to Mercury. Lilith is in opposition with Mars. Not trying to belittle that, but in a nutshell, what those two things are is that he thinks he's charming. He thinks his ego is going to go there. He thinks he's bigger than what he is. The opposition with Mars is going to knock him down a few marks because his lesson is set in prime. It really is set in prime, and he's also got this other, dynamic. And I actually want to pull up one other thing right here, where if you do the comparison of where things are in today's planetary alignment, let me kind of go back to this. I don't want anybody's charts coming out of here that I've done before. I'm going to actually pull today's chart, and I want to show you like what he's dealing with the comparison of what's going on with the energies today. And again, you can say whatever it is that you want, but these influences really, they really truly speak to the energies at hand. Every JP Morgan used to work with astrologers all the time. And I'm going to use Moscow, Russia, not Alabama, as the primer to take a look at what's going on with the overall astrology. And when I point this out to you, it's going to make a boatload of sense, because here he is as somebody that he's arrogant about this. So, and again, the timing of this, the moon sign is literally because I picked 11:30 at night on 12/25. So just kind of negate that in terms of that regard. Moment to moment, the moon is going to change. every 2 hours in a 24-hour cycle, give or take a few minutes. Again, we go really in depth with that with the complete astrology guide class coming up. But we're in Pisces right now, and the sun Pisces represents that you are in cohesion and you are in cooperation with others. These are strike one, Vladimir. You are working against the astrology of the sun right now, because right now it's in the sign where cohesion, creative design is happening. You're kind of a little codependent, that sort of thing. He really needed people on board if he was going to start doing an invasion right now, because he's doing it at a time of cohesion. By the way, that's great news for the people that are opposing this. This is a great time for peoples to come together. Now things get really bad for him. I wish that was the worst thing. Now you take a look at Mercury in Aquarius. Well, Aquarian is really about humanitarian work. People are going to use their voices to say, as a people, we don't believe in this anymore. We do not believe you are our leader. He is screwed. Then you have Venus and Mars in Capricorn, that deadly combination and conjunction where if you don't have your shit together, somebody's going to punch you in the mouth. Capricorn being incredibly grounded. By the way, what was the one thing that was lacking in his chart? Earth. He doesn't have it. Now he's got 3 things in Capricorn right out of the gate. And I know the moon is kind of whatever, but at this exact time that I'm doing this, he's kind of sort of screwed. Jupiter made his transition through Aquarius and has been in Pisces now for almost 4 months, 5 months. And again, it's about you figure out good collaborations. In the age of Aquarius, and let's talk about this in terms of Saturn, and let's talk about this as we move into the age of Aquarius, is really about self-performance. It's about self-discipline. It's about self-accountability. It's about being able to say, I'm in charge of this. You're not in charge of me. You're not the boss of me. It's also saying, I've got this, and I'm also willing to take on the consequences of it. Guess what? He is doing this at a time where the structure is saying, we don't need a babysitter anymore. By the way, Saturn moved into Aquarius along with Jupiter at the Great Conjunction on December 21st, 2020. And that marked the start of the age of Aquarius in terms of our planetary alignment. The Earth won't get there for another, almost 100 years. I'm sorry, most of us won't make it. But I will tell you, we are going to fully feel the effects of these things. And Putin basically doing the undoing of Russia right now, because that's what he's doing, is part of this age of Aquarius thing. So Saturn's sitting firm in Aquarius. And again, none of these planets are in retrograde. None of them. And when a planet goes retrograde, what it does is it means that you can undo something that has been wronged. Guess what, Vladimir? You haven't been done wrong by not having Ukraine. Huh? It's in the stars, buddy. There is nothing here for you to revert back to. Uranus and Taurus, and again, these are generational things. Uranus and Taurus, this is about being, getting really kind of hardcore with your understanding who you are and being trustworthy and being your own badass self. It's why like great thought speakers like Brene Brown are coming out, or Gabby Bernstein, or rest his soul, and Wayne Dyer. This is why these quotes are getting pulled out all over the place. Neptune and Pisces, again, that conjunction, that Vesica of Pisces coming together in Neptune. This is why we're actually finding new spiritual guidance with being self-taught and finding smaller groups and communities. We're reinventing what we believe in right now. And then Pluto and Capricorn, I could talk about this for a day and a half. And I will limit this to no more than maybe 2 minutes. But Pluto and Capricorn began in 2006. And it was a really important time where what Pluto and Capricorn represents is that it's the undoing of a lot of the structures. It's the undoing, Pluto being this uncoverer of secrets and all of this other stuff. And Capricorn is looking at the structures that are. In 2008, we had a guy named Bernie Madoff take off with everybody's money. and he was exposed for this Ponzi scheme, but the structure actually allowed him to do it. What was really, I mean, Bernie Madoff was a bad guy. He did bad things. He worked within a system that allowed him to steal. The key point that I just said is they discovered that the system didn't work, right? Yeah, he eventually got caught, but he got away with it for decades, right? On the flip side of that, you had things like politicians going to Capitol Hill to talk about their emails. You had local government officials selling seats for appointments for senators. You had all sorts of, like, everything from local to state to national scandals about political well-being, about how the structure was being stolen from and lied to on a regular basis. That is the type of stuff that Pluto and Capricorn brings to. And a shout out to Sandra, Alexae, Morin. Check out her channel. I'll post her below. I love you, Sandra. She's the one that taught me about that. Maybe take a really closer look to that. She has this particular video. I'm going to make one as well. I'll probably even talk to her about it. But right now, Vladimir Putin, like, if he was going to do this, he should have done it in 2002. He should have done it in 1998 when he first took office, which I think that's about when he took office. Anyways, that's when he came into some prime minister experience or whatever. But right now, and again, this is going to be kind of in a circular thing. You can't really pay attention to the houses as much as you can. One thing I do want to pay attention to, though, is how much this is such a lopsided Earth time, right? It's also a very feminine time. Ouch. Ouch, Vladimir. You're all alpha male. The Earth is not in that mode right now. And by the way, everything is cyclical, man. Everything's coming back around. You could have chosen wisely. You could have worked with that. So this is actually the astrology right now of Moscow, of where he's sitting. He is not in a good place, everybody. By the way, 3 indicators with this. The Mercury in Aquarius, this is where the people are going to talk, and the people are going to want humanitarian to be the way. No war. This literally says no war. And by the way, don't get hung up on the age of Aquarius and sing that song. It is so incorrect in its astrology. But what's important is that Mercury reigns with the voice of the people here. Venus in Capricorn, Mars in Capricorn works against everything that Vladimir Putin is in his birth chart. Jupiter in Pisces, again, we talked a little bit about that at great length. And the North Node is in Taurus. Again, that's another one that will change within the day, Lilith as well. But it's important to really kind of look at where things are structurally with the planets right now, because that's how predictive astrology comes in. Again, we actually teach that as a class in the complete astrology guide. So tell me what you think below. As a prediction, I'm going to go ahead and say this, and go ahead and give me comments to this. I actually think Vladimir Putin is going to either do a full-on retreat and say, I'm sorry, Ukraine. I kind of like being in power. Based on his ego in the rest of his chart, I think he is an all-in kind of guy because he took a long time to calculatedly get here. He poorly predicted this for himself without looking at astrology. His astrology is flat out terrible for an invasion. Terrible. Which is why there are uprisings in his own country, which is why NATO is standing up to him, but they can't quite do anything. He thinks he has everybody right where he needs them. He's going to try and do this with brute force. He is going to lose a boatload of resources, and it will be the type of thing, like, he may take over Chernobyl, he may get Kiev, but he's going to lose Moscow and St. Petersburg. It's going to be one of those things where he's in such internal conflict with this that he's going to fail miserably and tell everybody how he won. Does that remind you of somebody else that used to support him? Again, I'm not trying to be political about this, but when you look at the astrology of certain people and how they behave and how they act, know that at the end of the day, the astrology kind of rules. And you may say, and again, I had nothing but compliment about his leadership skills. I think Vladimir Putin actually has what it takes to be a really great leader. He also is a child. He also is so arrogant that he wouldn't look at things like, is this really a good time to do this? What, right after the Olympics? Be prepared for higher gas prices. Be prepared for contentious diatribes about who did what when and who's here and that sort of thing. The geopolitical nature of this, though, is Ukraine holds a boatload of money that we put there. Oh, and they also have a bunch of our arms. And oh, by the way, we haven't really helped peaceful efforts. We've just encouraged things. Vladimir Putin's kind of a fool, not just because he decided to invade another sovereign country, but his timing is so terrible. It's flat out awful. It's going to end in a disaster. But as we look at this in the bigger picture, it is part of the great undoing. It's the reason why people aren't returning to work after a pandemic. It's the reason why our inflation rates are out of control, because we think we can just outspend everything all the time. The great correction is on. And if Vladimir Putin, unfortunately, feels that his role is to try and invade Ukraine and take it over for some reason, he's about to learn the lifetime lesson that he signed up for in his karmatic Akashic record dialect. And now he's about to get it. And revenge, in terms of astrology, is always served cold. All right, guys, thank you so much. Go ahead and click on the link below. Make sure you like and subscribe. Tell your friends about it. Go ahead and share it. I actually think sharing it is actually the most important thing. Like and subscribe it. Yeah, it does well by us. But more importantly, hope to see you again soon. I'm Conscious Medium Brandon Ross, and I want to thank you for being part of things here. We do the heart tap when we can't hug and handshake, and remind one another to simply keep going. I'm more than a medium, and here we go. Thanks so much, guys. I'm sorry I swore. You know, that's so not me. But when I'm talking about Vladimir fucking Putin, sorry. I've just been banned in Russia. Go take him out, guys. Be well.